So in Islam, we are not allowed to give our own name to our adopted child or children. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 4 to 5, Allah says, "Nor does He regard your adopted children as your real children. These are only your baseless assertions. But Allah declares the truth, and He alone guides to the right way. Let your adopted children keep their family names. That is more just in the sight of Allah. But if you do not know their fathers, then they are simply your fellow believers and close associates. There is no blame on you for what you do by mistake, but only for what you do intentionally. And Allah is all forgiving, most merciful." Now, I made some videos before regarding adoption in Islam. So there's a difference between mahram and also Allah considering them, not considering them as your real father or your real sons and daughters. So although you have the option of making that child into a mahram, or you become the mahram of that child if your wife breastfeeds the child before the age of 2, more than 2 times, it has to be many times, more than 2 times, and that child does become, or you do become that child's mahram. So your wife does not need to wear hijab in front of that child, or your stepdaughter does not need to wear hijab in front of you, but still, you are still not allowed to give your own name. The lineage of that child cannot be lost, it cannot be forgotten. You still have to preserve that. Yet there's no restriction, you can treat them as your own child. And if, of course, especially in terms of hijab, you just have to make sure that your wife would have breastfed them if you want to be their mahram. And obviously if your wife wants her stepson to be her mahram, then she would need to breastfeed that child. But whereas if a woman, for example, remarries, her child is actually, there's no need for any breastfeeding because that's her biological child. Her new husband would automatically become the mahram of her biological child. So that's the difference between a child from adoption and a child from a woman who remarries. So and how they become mahram. So remarrying, he automatically becomes mahram, but when you adopt, you would need to ensure that you breastfeed the child before the age of 2 more than twice, at least, to ensure that you're the mahram of the child and also your husband is.